The rain fell in steady sheets across Salem, Oregon, painting the sidewalks dark and slick beneath the gray March sky. Laura Whitfield sat in her Honda CR-V outside Miss Eleanor's School of Ballet, windshield wipers beating a rhythmic pulse as she watched the studio's glass doors. It was 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, and she was early, as always. Laura had developed a habit of arriving 10 minutes before Emma's class ended. She'd park in the same spot under the oak tree, scroll through work emails on her phone, and wait for that moment when the doors would swing open and a stream of little girls in pink tights and black leotards would spill out onto the covered walkway, their mothers trailing behind with gym bags and water bottles. But today, something felt different. Laura couldn't name it, just a tightness in her chest that had been there since morning. She glanced at the clock on the dashboard, 4:52 p.m., 8 minutes until class ended. She looked down at her phone, at the Find My app, sitting innocuously among the others on her home screen. Her thumb hovered over it for just a moment before she locked the screen and set the phone in the cup holder. 3 weeks earlier, Laura had made a decision that her husband Michael thought was paranoid. She'd purchased a 4-pack of Apple AirTags from the store downtown, small white discs about the size of a quarter that could track location through Bluetooth and the vast network of Apple devices around the world. "You're overreacting," Michael had said when she showed him the package that evening. He was grading papers at the kitchen table, red pen in hand, barely looking up. "Emma's 7 years old. She's either with us or at school or at ballet. When exactly do you think she's going to wander off?" "It's not about wandering off," Laura had replied, her voice tighter than she intended. "Did you see the news last week? That girl in Portland?" Michael had sighed, finally setting down his pen. "That was Portland. That was a teenager who ran away from home. That's completely different. She was 15 and she was taken from a bus stop. They found her 2 days later in some man's basement. And they caught him. The system worked." Laura had wanted to scream. The system worked? A 15-year-old girl had been held captive, terrified, probably traumatized for life, and Michael thought the system worked because they eventually caught the guy? But she didn't scream. She just slipped one of the AirTags into the small inside pocket of Emma's purple backpack the next morning, the one Emma never checked because she didn't even know it was there. She activated it on her phone, named it Emma's backpack, and told herself she was being a responsible parent in an increasingly dangerous world. Now, sitting in the parking lot as the rain intensified, Laura wondered if maybe Michael had been right. Maybe she was being paranoid. Maybe the knot in her stomach was just stress from work, from the Johnson account that was bleeding money, from the mortgage payment that was due in 3 days. The studio doors opened. Laura sat up straighter, watching as the first group of girls emerged. The older class, the 9 and 10-year-olds. They moved with more confidence than the younger students, laughing and chatting as they ran through the rain to waiting cars. Laura recognized most of them. Sophia Chen, whose mother always forgot to pack snacks. Madison Torres, who lived 3 streets over. Olivia something or other with the red hair. Laura checked the time again. 4:58 p.m. 2 more minutes. She turned the key in the ignition halfway, just enough to bring the dashboard to life without starting the engine. The radio came on mid-song, some pop tune Emma would have known all the words to. Laura turned it off. At exactly 5 p.m. the doors opened again. Laura leaned forward, eyes scanning each small figure that emerged. There was Claire Morrison in her pink jacket. There was the twins, Amy and Allison Garrett, holding hands like they always did. There was Zoe Hendricks, whose father was already walking toward the building with an umbrella. But no Emma. Laura waited, counting heads. 6 girls. 7. 8. Emma's class had 12 students. 9 girls. 10. Still no Emma. The flow of children stopped. Parents were buckling kids into car seats, closing umbrellas, pulling away from the curb. Miss Eleanor appeared in the doorway, her silver hair pulled back in its usual tight bun, locking the studio door from outside. Laura's heart began to hammer. She opened her car door and stepped out into the rain, not bothering with her jacket. "Miss Eleanor," she called, jogging across the wet pavement. The ballet instructor turned, surprise flickering across her lined face. "Laura, I didn't see you there. Did you need something? Where's Emma?" The words came out more sharply than Laura intended. "I didn't see her come out." Miss Eleanor's expression shifted, confusion then something like concern. "Emma? But she left early today." The world seemed to tilt slightly. "What?" About halfway through class, maybe 4:30, a man came to the desk and said there was a family emergency. He had all the right information. Your name, Emma's full name. Even knew about the car accident last summer. Said you'd sent him to pick her up because you were tied up at the hospital with your mother. Laura felt her blood turn to ice. My mother is dead. She died 4 years ago. Miss Eleanor's face went white. Oh my God. Oh my God. I checked him in myself. He seemed so. He knew everything. He said he was your brother-in-law. He even knew that Emma had just lost her first tooth. What did he look like? Laura could barely force the words out. Her hands were shaking. Older, maybe late 40s. Brown hair, kind of thin on top. He was wearing a gray jacket and jeans. Had a nice smile. He seemed so trustworthy, Laura. He showed me a phone with a text message from you saying to expect him. Laura was already pulling her phone from her pocket, fingers fumbling across the screen as rain soaked her hair and clothes. She opened Find My, selected Emma's backpack from the list. The little green dot appeared on the map, pulsing steadily. But it wasn't at the ballet studio. It was moving. Laura zoomed out, watching the dot track along Highway 22, heading east, away from Salem, away from home, already 15 miles outside the city limits. I'm calling the police, Miss Eleanor said, her voice breaking. Laura, I'm so sorry, I thought... But Laura was already running back to her car. She slid into the driver's seat, threw the transmission into reverse and peeled out of the parking lot, tires squealing on wet pavement. Her phone was clutched in her right hand, propped against the steering wheel, the green dot on the screen moving steadily away from her. With her left hand, she called 911. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter has been kidnapped. Laura's voice was surprisingly steady, even as her vision blurred with tears. Her name is Emma Whitfield. She's 7 years old, and I can track her location. She's heading east on Highway 22, currently passing mile marker 47. The 911 dispatcher's voice was calm, professional, designed to keep people from panicking. But Laura was already beyond panic. She had passed through panic in the parking lot and emerged on the other side into something colder, sharper, a focused fury that kept her hand steady on the wheel and her foot heavy on the accelerator. Ma'am, I need you to pull over and wait for officers to arrive at your location, the dispatcher said. We're sending units now, but I need you to stay safe and let law enforcement handle this. No. Laura's CRV was doing 75 in a 55 zone, weaving between slower traffic as she merged onto Highway 22. I'm not losing that signal. I'm not losing my daughter. Ma'am, pursuing a potential kidnapper yourself is extremely dangerous. Then tell your officers to catch up with me. Laura's eyes flicked between the road and her phone screen, mounted now in a holder on her dashboard. The green dot was still moving, still heading east, but the distance between them was closing. She was gaining on whoever had Emma. I'm in a silver Honda CRV, license plate 847JDM. I'm currently passing mile marker 51 on Highway 22 East. The target is approximately 8 miles ahead of me. There was a pause, the sound of rapid typing. Mrs. Whitfield, I have your information. I'm coordinating with Oregon State Police now. They have units in the area, but I'm begging you to slow down and let them take over. I'm not slowing down. Laura passed a white pickup truck, then swerved back into the right lane as an SUV approached from behind, lights flashing. For a moment, her heart leapt. Police? But it was just an angry driver she'd cut off. How long until your units arrive? We have 2 patrol cars en route. ETA approximately 12 minutes to your current location. 12 minutes. Laura looked at the map. The green dot had slowed down, was turning off the highway onto what looked like a smaller road. Cascade View Road, according to the map label. Rural. Isolated. He's turning off Highway 22, Laura reported, taking the same exit too fast, her tires squealing as she corrected the turn. Cascade View Road, going north. I have that information. Mrs. Whitfield, what kind of tracking are you using? How are you following your daughter? Apple AirTag. It's in her backpack. Another pause. That's very helpful. Stay on the line with me. I need you to keep providing updates on the location. The road had narrowed to 2 lanes, trees pressing in on both sides. The rain was lighter here, just a mist that clung to the windshield. Laura passed a farm stand closed for the season, a rusted mailbox, a dirt driveway that disappeared into the woods. The green dot had stopped moving. Laura's breath caught in her throat. She zoomed in on the map. The location marker sat at the end of what appeared to be a private road, maybe 3 miles ahead of her current position. Nothing else around it. No other houses, no businesses, just forest. The target has stopped, she said into the phone. Cascade View Road, approximately 3 miles north of Highway 22. Looks like a private property. I need you to drive past that location and do not engage, the dispatcher said, and for the first time there was urgency in her voice. Do you understand me, Mrs. Whitfield? Drive past, find a safe place to pull over, and wait for police units. Laura didn't answer. She was calculating distances, timing. If she drove past, whoever had Emma might hear her car, might panic, might hurt Emma, might run. But if she stopped before reaching the property, if she approached on foot. Mrs. Whitfield, are you still there? I'm here. Laura spotted a turnout ahead, a wide spot where the shoulder opened up into a small clearing. She slowed, pulled off the road, killed the engine. I've stopped about half a mile from the target location. I'm going to wait here. Good. That's good. Stay in your vehicle with the doors locked. Our units are 8 minutes out now. Laura looked at her phone. The green dot pulsed steadily in place. 8 minutes. 8 minutes for someone to hurt her daughter. 8 minutes for someone to realize they were being tracked and destroy the backpack. Destroy the only way to find Emma. 8 minutes was too long. I understand, Laura said. Then she ended the call. She sat for a moment in the silence of her car, rain pattering softly on the roof. Her phone immediately began ringing. The 911 dispatcher calling back. Laura silenced it. She opened her glove compartment, searching for anything that could be useful. A flashlight, owner's manual, insurance cards, a tire pressure gauge. Nothing that could be used as a weapon. Laura got out of the car, pocketed her phone and the flashlight, and started walking. The road was muddy, puddles reflecting the gray sky. Her sneakers squelched with each step. She stayed to the side where the trees provided some cover, moving as quickly as she dared while trying to stay quiet. Every snapping twig made her flinch. Every bird call made her freeze. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only 5 minutes, she saw it. A break in the trees where a dirt driveway cut into the forest. And there, barely visible through the foliage, was a trailer, old, white with rust stains, sitting up on cinder blocks. A gray pickup truck was parked beside it. Laura's heart hammered so hard she thought she might be sick. She pulled out her phone, checked the Find My app again. The green dot was right there, right at this location. Emma was in that trailer. Laura crept closer, staying in the tree line, circling around to get a better view. The trailer's windows were covered with what looked like aluminum foil or paper. Impossible to see inside. The pickup truck's license plate was visible. Oregon plates, T92KLM. She took a photo with her phone, hands shaking so badly it took 3 tries to get a clear image. As she moved around the side of the trailer, she heard something that made her blood freeze. A child crying. Emma's voice muffled but unmistakable. I want my mommy. Please, I want my mommy. And then a man's voice, rough and irritated. Shut up, just shut up. We're leaving soon and then you can cry all you want. Laura's vision went red. Every maternal instinct in her body screamed to crash through that door, to rip her daughter out of whatever nightmare was happening inside. But her rational mind, barely holding on, reminded her that she was unarmed, untrained, and going up against a man who had already proven himself capable of kidnapping a child. She needed to wait for the police. She had the location. They were coming. Emma was alive. Emma was close. Emma would be rescued. But what if he moved her before the police arrived? What if he heard the sirens and panicked? Laura circled back toward the front of the trailer, searching for another option, another angle. That's when she saw the pickup truck's driver's side door was slightly ajar, keys dangling from the ignition. An idea formed in her mind. Reckless, probably stupid, but maybe her only chance. She could disable the truck, remove the keys, slash the tires with something. If he couldn't drive away, he'd be trapped here when the police arrived. Laura crept toward the truck, each step measured and silent. She was 10 feet away, 5 feet. She reached for the door handle. The trailer door slammed open. A man stepped out, exactly as Miss Eleanor had described. Late 40s, thinning brown hair, gray jacket, but up close there was something wrong with his eyes. Something flat and cold that made Laura's skin crawl. Derek Malloy, though Laura didn't know his name yet, froze when he saw her. For a split second they just stared at each other across the muddy clearing. Then he smiled. You must be Emma's mother, he said conversationally, as if they were meeting at a PTA event instead of at a kidnapping scene. She looks just like you. Same eyes. Laura's voice came out as a growl. Where is my daughter? Safe, for now. He took a step toward her. You shouldn't have come here alone, that was very stupid. The police are already on their way. Laura backed up, keeping the truck between them. They'll be here any minute. Let her go now and maybe this doesn't get worse for you." Malloy laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "It's already as bad as it gets for me, Laura. May I call you Laura? See, I've been watching your family for 3 months now. I know everything about you. Where you work, where Michael teaches, what time Emma gets dropped off at ballet. I know you had a miscarriage 2 years ago and you've been trying for another baby ever since." The casual intimacy of his knowledge made Laura want to vomit. "You're sick. I'm practical." He moved around the truck, closing the distance between them. "And I know that if I let Emma go now, I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. So I don't really have anything to lose anymore, do I?" Laura ran. She didn't think about it, didn't plan it. Her body just moved, sprinting back toward the road, toward her car, toward help. Behind her, she heard Malloy curse and give chase, his footsteps heavy and fast. She made it maybe 30 yards before he caught her. His hand closed around her arm and yanked her backward. Laura screamed, twisted, raked her fingernails across his face. He cursed again, released her for just a second, and Laura used that second to pull her phone from her pocket and throw it as hard as she could into the bushes. If nothing else, the police could track her phone's location. Then Malloy's fist connected with the side of her head and the world went dark. Laura woke to the smell of mildew and motor oil. Her head throbbed with a sharp, pulsing pain that radiated from her temple down her neck. When she tried to move, she realized her hands were bound behind her back with something rough, duct tape from the feel of it. Her ankles were similarly restrained. She was lying on her side on a threadbare carpet that might have once been beige, but was now a dingy brown, stained with substances she didn't want to identify. The ceiling above her was water-damaged, blooming with dark mold spots. A single bare bulb swung gently from a cord, casting swaying shadows across the cramped space. The trailer. She was inside the trailer. Memory rushed back in a nauseating wave. The chase. Malloy catching her. The impact of his fist. Her phone thrown into the bushes. The police coming but not knowing exactly where she was. Emma. "Mommy?" Laura's head snapped to the side, sending another spike of pain through her skull. There, in the corner of the trailer's main room, sat Emma. She was huddled on a ratty couch, her purple backpack still strapped to her shoulders, her face streaked with tears. Her pink ballet tights were dirty at the knees and her black leotard was visible under her unzipped jacket. But she was alive. She was whole. "Baby," Laura breathed, her voice cracking. "Emma, sweetheart, are you okay? Did he hurt you?" Emma shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm scared, Mommy. I want to go home. Why did that man take me? He said you were in the hospital, but you're not. He lied." "I know, baby. I know he lied." Laura struggled against the tape binding her wrists, but it held firm. "It's going to be okay. The police are coming. We just need to. The police aren't going to find you in time." Malloy's voice came from the other end of the trailer, from what looked like a small kitchen area. Laura craned her neck and saw him standing at a grimy sink, washing blood from his face where she'd scratched him. He was looking at himself in a small mirror mounted above the faucet, dabbing at the wounds with a dish towel. "You threw your phone away," he continued, his tone almost conversational. "Smart thinking, actually, but also pointless. They'll track it to somewhere in the woods, probably 100 yards from here. It'll take them time to search the area, figure out where you actually went. And by then," he turned to face her, the towel pressed against his cheek. "By then, we'll be long gone." Laura's mind raced. He was right about the phone. She'd thrown it blindly, and even if the police triangulated its location, they'd have to search the surrounding area on foot. That could take 20 minutes, 30, maybe longer in this dense forest. But he was wrong about one thing. "They don't need my phone," Laura said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "They have another way to track us." Malloy's expression flickered, just for a moment, uncertainty crossing his features. "What are you talking about? How do you think I found you in the first place?" Laura pushed herself into a sitting position, ignoring the spinning in her head. "I tracked Emma here, and I'm still tracking her." She watched his eyes move to Emma, scanning her visible clothing. His gaze landed on the purple backpack. "The backpack," he said slowly. Then, moving with sudden violence, he crossed the trailer in 3 long strides and yanked the backpack off Emma's shoulders. Emma cried out, shrinking back into the couch cushions. "Don't touch her," Laura shouted, struggling uselessly against her bonds. Malloy ignored her. He unzipped the backpack and dumped its contents onto the floor. A water bottle, a half-eaten granola bar, a small stuffed unicorn that Emma took everywhere, some colored pencils. He picked up each item, examining them, then tossing them aside. Nothing electronic, nothing obvious. He grabbed the backpack itself, feeling along the seams, checking every pocket. His fingers found the small hidden compartment on the inside. Laura's heart sank as she watched him pull out the white disc of the AirTag. This? Malloy held it up, his smile returning. Colder now, more cruel. This is what you've been tracking? Jesus Christ, you put a tracker on your own kid. What kind of paranoid helicopter parent bullshit is that? The kind that found my daughter when a predator kidnapped her, Laura shot back. The kind that's going to put you in prison for the rest of your life. Malloy laughed, that same dry, humorless sound. He walked to the kitchen, filled a glass with water from the tap, and dropped the AirTag into it. Then he opened the trailer's back window and tossed the glass out into the woods. Problem solved, he said. Now the police will track that little gadget to some random spot in the forest while we drive in the opposite direction. He looked at Laura, his expression hardening. You shouldn't have come here. You should have waited for the cops like a good little citizen. Now I've got to figure out what to do with you. Emma was crying harder now, her small body shaking with sobs. Please let my mommy go. Please, we won't tell anyone. We'll just go home and forget this happened. Emma, baby, don't... Laura started, but Malloy cut her off. Forget this happened? He gestured to the scratches on his face. She assaulted me. There's evidence now. DNA under her fingernails. And even if there wasn't, do you really think anyone's going to believe you'd just forget your daughter was kidnapped? He ran a hand through his thinning hair, pacing the narrow aisle between furniture. No, this is more complicated now. Laura watched him pace, her mind working frantically. She needed to keep him talking, needed to buy time for the police to find them. They had to be close by now. They had to be searching. Why Emma? She asked. Why my daughter? Malloy stopped pacing. He looked at Laura with those flat, cold eyes. Because she's perfect. 7 years old. Still innocent. Still trusting. Not old enough to really fight back, but old enough to... well, old enough. Laura felt bile rise in her throat. You're a pedophile. I'm a collector of beautiful things, Malloy said, his voice taking on a dreamy quality that was somehow more disturbing than his anger. And Emma is beautiful. I've been watching her for months, learning her schedule, her habits. Did you know she always gets the same flavor of ice cream at Baskin-Robbins? Mint chocolate chip. And she has a freckle behind her left ear in the shape of a heart. And when she concentrates really hard in ballet class, she sticks her tongue out just a little bit. Stop. Laura's voice was shaking now. Stop talking about my daughter. I know everything about her. More than you do, probably. Because I pay attention. I appreciate her. Malloy's smile widened. And I knew that eventually there would be an opportunity. Today, when I showed up at the ballet studio with all the right information I got from the student files when I worked maintenance there last year, Miss Eleanor didn't even question me. She was so concerned, so eager to help with the family emergency. People are so easy to manipulate when you press the right buttons. Laura's mind latched onto something he'd said. You worked at the ballet studio? For 6 months. Fixing toilets, changing light bulbs, mopping floors. Invisible. Nobody pays attention to the maintenance guy, but the maintenance guy pays attention to everything. His expression darkened. Until they ran a background check for some insurance bullshit and found out about my record. Then suddenly I was a liability. They fired me, banned me from the premises, like I was some kind of monster. You are a monster, Laura said flatly. You have a record for sex crimes. You shouldn't be anywhere near children. That was a misunderstanding. The girl lied about her age. She told me she was 18. She was 14. How do you... Malloy's eyes narrowed. You looked me up. You know who I am. Laura realized her mistake too late. She didn't know who he was. She'd been guessing, trying to get information. But now he thought she had details about him, which meant he definitely couldn't let her go. The police know who you are too, Laura said, committing to the bluff. They have your description. They probably already have your name. It's over, Derek. His head jerked up at the sound of his name, another guess that had paid off. She'd seen the shock of recognition in his face when she said it. How? He took a step toward her, anger replacing the cold calculation. How do you know my name? I told you. The police know everything. They know about your record. They know about you working at the ballet studio. They know you're the one who took Emma. Laura kept her voice steady, authoritative, like she was in a business meeting instead of bound with duct tape in a kidnapper's trailer. Every cop in Oregon is looking for you right now. Your face is probably on the news. There's nowhere you can go. Malloy stood frozen, processing. Laura could see him thinking, calculating odds, trying to figure out his next move. Then in the distance, barely audible, a siren. All three of them heard it. Emma's head lifted, hope sparking in her tear-filled eyes. Malloy's face went pale, and Laura felt a surge of relief so intense it made her dizzy. The police had found them. Malloy moved fast. He grabbed Emma by the arm, yanking her up from the couch. Emma screamed. He pulled a folding knife from his pocket, flicked it open, and held it near Emma's throat. "Shut up," he snarled at Emma, then looked at Laura. "Both of you shut up or I swear to God." The siren was getting closer. Multiple sirens now, converging. "It's over," Laura said again. "Let her go. Don't make this worse." Malloy's hand was shaking, the knife blade catching the light from the bare bulb. His eyes darted between Laura and the trailer's small windows, where red and blue lights were beginning to strobe through the covered glass. "Derek," Laura said, softer now. "Please. She's just a little girl. Let her go and turn yourself in. Don't hurt her, please." For a long moment, nothing moved. The sirens wailed outside. Emma whimpered. Malloy's breathing came fast and shallow. Then, from outside, "This is Oregon State Police. We have the trailer surrounded. Send the child out and come out with your hands up." The voice from outside boomed through a megaphone, mechanical and authoritative. "Derek Malloy, we know you're in there. Send the child out now and no one needs to get hurt." Malloy's face twisted with panic and rage. The knife in his hand trembled against Emma's neck, close enough that Laura could see her daughter holding her breath, frozen in terror. Outside, the red and blue lights painted frantic patterns across the foil-covered windows, and Laura could hear the crunch of footsteps on gravel. Officers taking positions around the trailer. "They know your name," Laura said quietly, trying to keep her voice calm even as her heart hammered against her ribs. "They know everything. It's over, Derek. Don't make Emma pay for your mistakes." "Shut up." Malloy's eyes were wild now, darting between Laura and the windows. "Shut up, I need to think." Emma whimpered, and the small sound seemed to break something in Malloy. He loosened his grip slightly, the knife dropping a few inches from her throat. Laura saw her chance. "Emma, baby, look at me," she said, catching her daughter's terrified gaze. "Remember what Daddy taught you about fire drills at school? Remember how you practiced staying calm and following directions?" Emma nodded slightly, tears streaming down her face. "This is like that, okay? When I say so, I want you to drop down as fast as you can, just like drop and roll. Can you do that for Mommy?" "Don't you dare," Malloy started, but Laura cut him off. "You're going to prison no matter what happens next," she said, her voice hard. "The only question is whether you go for kidnapping or for murder. Let her go. Make the smart choice." The megaphone crackled again. "Derek Malloy, this is Sergeant Chen with Oregon State Police. I want to talk to you. I'm going to approach the trailer unarmed. Don't do anything stupid." Malloy's attention shifted to the window facing the front of the trailer. Through a small gap in the foil covering, Laura could see the vague shape of someone approaching. A woman in a police vest, hands raised and empty. "Don't come closer," Malloy shouted. "I have a knife. I'll hurt the girl. I understand you're scared, Derek." The woman's voice was closer now, calmer than the megaphone voice had been. "I understand you feel trapped, but hurting that little girl won't help you. It'll only make everything worse." "Everything's already worse," Malloy's voice cracked. "You don't understand. I can't go back to prison. I can't." "You don't know what they do to guys like me in there." "Then let's talk about options," Sergeant Chen said. "But first, I need to know everyone in there is okay. Is the mother hurt?" Malloy looked at Laura, his expression unreadable. "She's fine. Conscious." "Good, that's good, Derek. Now what do you need?" "What can I do to help resolve this situation?" "I need," Malloy's voice faltered. "I need you to back off. I need time to think." "I can give you time. But first, I need a show of good faith. Send the little girl out. She's scared and she needs medical attention. You let her go and we'll talk about what comes next." Malloy laughed bitterly. "Right. I let the girl go and you storm the trailer and shoot me dead. I've seen how this ends. Nobody wants to shoot you, Derek. We just want everyone to walk away from this safely." While Malloy was focused on the window, on the negotiator outside, Laura had been working on her restraints. The duct tape around her wrists was tight, but not expertly applied. She'd been flexing and twisting her hands, trying to create slack, trying to find a weakness. The tape was cutting into her skin, and she could feel warmth that was probably blood, but she kept working. Emma was still standing rigid in Malloy's grip, but the knife had dropped further, now pointed vaguely in her direction but no longer touching her. His attention was divided between the window and Laura, and that division was his weakness. Laura caught Emma's eye again and gave the smallest nod. Then she screamed, a loud, piercing shriek that made Malloy jump and spin toward her. In that half-second of distraction, Emma dropped. She collapsed to the floor like her legs had been cut out from under her, exactly as Laura had instructed. Malloy's hand, still gripping her jacket, pulled empty air as Emma slipped through his grasp and scrambled on her hands and knees toward the back of the trailer. "You bitch!" Malloy lunged toward Laura, the knife raised. The trailer's front door exploded inward. 2 officers in tactical gear burst through, weapons raised. "Drop the knife. Drop it now." Malloy froze, knife still in hand, halfway between Laura and Emma. For a moment that stretched like taffy, nobody moved. Laura could see the calculation in his eyes. Fight or surrender, die or submit. The knife clattered to the floor. "Hands behind your head. Now. Do it now." Malloy complied, fingers lacing behind his skull. 1 officer moved in fast, yanking Malloy's hands down and snapping handcuffs on while the other kept his weapon trained. Within seconds, they had Malloy face down on the filthy carpet, a knee in his back. "Clear!" 1 officer shouted. More police poured into the trailer. Someone was cutting the tape from Laura's wrists and ankles. Someone else was scooping up Emma, checking her for injuries. The small space became chaos. Radios crackling, voices overlapping, boots tracking mud across the floor. Laura's hands were free. She stumbled to her feet, nearly falling when her legs didn't want to support her weight. But then Emma was there, wrapped in a police jacket but reaching for her mother. And Laura caught her and held on like she would never let go. Mommy, I was so scared." "I know, baby, I know. But you're safe now. You're safe." Sergeant Chen appeared in front of them, a compact Asian woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Mrs. Whitfield, I'm Sergeant Lucy Chen. We need to get both of you checked by paramedics. Can you walk?" Laura nodded, though she wasn't entirely sure it was true. Her head was pounding and the room kept tilting at weird angles. But she had Emma in her arms, and that was all that mattered. They emerged from the trailer into a scene that looked like something from a movie. At least a dozen police vehicles ringed the clearing, lights still flashing. Officers in tactical gear stood in formation. Paramedics were running toward them with medical bags. And there, being led in handcuffs to a patrol car, was Derek Malloy, head down, defeated. The rain had stopped. The sky was clearing, showing patches of blue between the clouds. Laura stood there in the mud, holding her daughter, and started to shake. The adrenaline that had kept her moving, kept her thinking, kept her alive was draining away, leaving nothing but reaction. Easy. Someone, a paramedic, was guiding her to sit on the bumper of an ambulance. "You're in shock. That's normal. Just breathe for me, okay?" Laura breathed, in and out, in and out. Emma was being examined by another paramedic a few feet away, but she was still in Laura's line of sight, still safe, still alive. "Ma'am, can you tell me your name?" The paramedic, a young man with red hair and freckles, was shining a light in her eyes. "Laura Whitfield." "Good. And do you know where you are?" "A trailer. Woods. Cascade View Road." The words came automatically. "That's right, you're doing great. I'm going to check your head where you were hit, okay?" Laura barely felt his hands probing her skull. She was watching Emma, who was crying, but talking, answering the other paramedics' questions. She saw Emma point to the trailer, then to Laura, explaining something. The paramedic nodded, smiled reassuringly, wrapped a blood pressure cuff around Emma's small arm. Sergeant Chen appeared again. "Mrs. Whitfield, I know you've been through hell today, but I need to ask you some questions while everything is fresh. Are you up for that?" "Yes," Laura said. "Then, is he going to prison? That man, Malloy, is he going to prison?" "He's going to prison for a very long time," Chen said firmly. "Kidnapping, assault, child endangerment, and that's just what we can charge him with right now. Once we search his trailer and his background more thoroughly, I'm betting we'll find more." He said he worked at Emma's ballet studio, said he'd been watching her for months. Chen pulled out a notepad. "We'll need all the details, but not right now. Right now you need to get checked out at the hospital, both of you." "I want to call my husband," Laura said suddenly. "Michael, he doesn't know. He's at work, he has no idea. We've already contacted him, he's meeting you at Salem Hospital." The paramedic was saying something about possible concussion, about needing a CT scan, about keeping her awake during the ambulance ride. Laura nodded along, but she wasn't really listening. She was watching Emma being lifted into the back of the ambulance, still wrapped in the oversized police jacket, looking so small and fragile and alive. "Mom, can I ride with Emma?" Laura asked. "Of course." The paramedic helped her up into the ambulance. Laura settled on the bench seat and Emma immediately curled into her lap, face pressed against Laura's chest. As the ambulance pulled away from the trailer, Laura looked out the back window. She could see Derek Malloy's gray pickup truck being photographed by crime scene technicians. She could see officers stringing yellow tape around the trailer, and she could see, being placed carefully into an evidence bag, Emma's purple backpack, the backpack that had saved her daughter's life. Laura's hand went to her pocket, found her phone. No, wait, her phone was gone, thrown into the bushes during her fight with Malloy. The police would find it eventually, but right now she had no phone, no way to track Emma, no technology between her and her daughter. Just her arms, just her heartbeat, just the solid, real presence of Emma breathing against her chest. "Mrs. Whitfield," the paramedic was checking her blood pressure again. "How are you feeling?" "Alive," Laura said. "I'm feeling alive." Emma shifted in her lap, tilting her head up to look at Laura with red, swollen eyes. "Mommy? Is the bad man really going to jail?" "Yes, baby. He's going to jail for a very, very long time." "Good." Emma's voice was small but fierce. "Because he's a liar and he scared me and I don't ever want to see him again." "You won't, sweetheart, I promise you won't." The ambulance swayed as it turned onto the highway, heading back toward Salem. Through the window, Laura could see the forest giving way to farmland, farmland giving way to suburbs, civilization, safety, home. Her head throbbed. Her wrists burned where the tape had cut her. She probably had a concussion, definitely had trauma that would take time to process. Emma would need therapy, lots of therapy, to deal with what had happened to her. But they were alive, they were together, and Derek Malloy was in handcuffs, his attempted abduction foiled by a small white disc of technology that cost $30. Laura closed her eyes and held her daughter tighter. Salem Hospital's emergency room was a controlled chaos of beeping monitors, rushing nurses, and the antiseptic smell that Laura would forever associate with this day. She sat on an examination table in Bay 7, a thin curtain providing minimal privacy from the adjacent beds where other people dealt with their own emergencies. A crying baby, an elderly man complaining of chest pain, someone vomiting into a plastic basin, but none of those emergencies were hers. Emma was in the next bay over, separated only by that curtain, being examined by Dr. Sarah Patel, a pediatrician with a gentle voice and efficient hands. Laura could hear every word through the fabric barrier. "Does this hurt, Emma?" "No?" "Good. How about here?" "No." "Excellent. You're doing so well. Can you tell me if the man touched you anywhere that made you uncomfortable?" A pause. Laura held her breath. "He grabbed my arm really hard when he pulled me to his truck," Emma said, her voice small. "And he held my shoulder in the car, but not like other places, not bad places." Laura exhaled, closing her eyes against the tears that threatened. Thank God for small mercies." "That's very helpful, Emma. Thank you for telling me." Dr. Patel's voice remained calm, professional. "I'm going to check your arm where he grabbed you, okay? Just to make sure there's no bruising that needs attention." In Laura's bay, Dr. James Morrison, a tired-looking ER physician in his 50s, was examining the lump on her head where Malloy had hit her. His fingers probed gently, but Laura still winced. "Decent-sized hematoma," he said, more to the nurse recording notes than to Laura. "Pupils are equal and reactive. Mrs. Whitfield, do you remember losing consciousness?" "Yes. He punched me and everything went black. I don't know how long I was out." "Any nausea? Vomiting? Blurred vision?" "Nausea, yes. The other two? No. We're going to do a CT scan to rule out any bleeding or fracture. Standard procedure for head trauma with loss of consciousness." He moved to her wrists where the duct tape had left angry red welts and breaks in the skin. "These need to be cleaned and dressed. Looks like you fought pretty hard." "I had to get free." Laura's voice was flat. "I had to protect my daughter." Dr. Morrison looked at her then, really looked at her, and something shifted in his tired expression. "You did protect her. From what the police told us, you saved her life." "The police saved her life. And the AirTag. And..." Laura's voice cracked. "And luck. Just dumb luck that I put that tracker in her backpack. If I hadn't..." "But you did." The nurse, a woman named Patricia with gray streaks in her dark hair, spoke up as she began cleaning Laura's wrists. "You had a mother's instinct and you followed it. That's not luck, honey. That's love." The curtain separating Laura from Emma's bay rustled and Dr. Patel stepped through, her expression carefully neutral. Laura's heart seized. Is she? Emma is physically unharmed, Dr. Patel said quickly, seeing the panic in Laura's face. No signs of sexual assault or serious physical trauma. Some bruising on her upper arm consistent with being grabbed, some minor abrasions on her knees from when she dropped to the floor during the rescue. But overall, she's remarkably okay. Laura's relief was so intense it made her dizzy. Can I see her? In just a moment, I want to talk to you first about what comes next. Dr. Patel pulled over a rolling stool and sat, bringing herself to eye level with Laura. Emma is going to need psychological support. What she experienced today, being taken by a stranger, held against her will, threatened, that's going to have lasting effects. She's going to need therapy, probably for a long time. Whatever she needs, whatever it takes. I'm also recommending therapy for you, Dr. Patel continued. You experienced trauma too. You were assaulted, held captive, feared for both your life and your daughter's life. That's not something you just bounce back from. Laura nodded, though part of her wanted to argue. She didn't have time for therapy. She needed to take care of Emma, get back to work, maintain some sense of normalcy. But even as she thought it, she knew it was denial talking. There's a victim advocate here at the hospital, Dr. Patel said. Her name is Jennifer Ramos. She's going to come talk to both of you about resources, support groups, and the legal process moving forward. Because there will be a trial eventually. Emma may have to testify. The thought made Laura's stomach turn. She's 7 years old, she can't. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, let's focus on getting you both home safely. Dr. Patel stood. Your husband is in the waiting room. Would you like me to bring him back? Yes, please. Dr. Patel disappeared through the curtain. Laura could hear her talking to someone. Low voices, too quiet to make out words. Then footsteps, rapid and urgent, and Michael burst into the bay. He looked terrible. His usually neat hair stood up in all directions like he'd been running his hands through it. His face was pale except for 2 spots of bright color on his cheeks. His button-down shirt was misbuttoned, one side hanging lower than the other. Laura. Her name came out as a sob. Oh God, Laura. He crossed the small space in 2 strides and wrapped his arms around her, pulling her against his chest so tightly she could barely breathe. Laura felt his whole body shaking. I'm okay, she whispered. We're okay. When the police called, when they said Emma had been kidnapped, I thought... His voice broke. I thought I'd lost her. I thought I'd never see her again. And then they said you'd gone after her alone, that you were taken too, and I thought I'd lost both of you. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I should have waited for the police, but I couldn't. I couldn't just sit there knowing where she was. You saved her. Michael pulled back enough to look at Laura's face, his eyes red and wet. The police told me what you did. The AirTag, tracking her, going into that trailer. You saved our daughter's life. Daddy? Both parents turned. Emma had pushed through the curtain, still wearing the hospital gown they'd put her in for the examination, her small feet bare on the cold linoleum floor. Her face was blotchy from crying, her hair a tangled mess. But she was there. She was real. Michael dropped to his knees and Emma ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck. He held her like she might dissolve into smoke if he let go, one hand cradling the back of her head, his face buried in her hair. My baby girl, he choked out. My sweet baby girl. You're safe now. You're safe. Laura watched them, this tableau of relief and reunion, and felt something inside her begin to crack. The adrenaline was gone. The crisis had passed. Emma was safe, and now finally Laura could let herself feel the full weight of what had almost happened. She started crying, silent tears at first, then racking sobs that shook her entire frame. Dr. Morrison appeared at her side, hand on her shoulder. Let it out, he said quietly. You've earned it. The next hour passed in a blur of activity. Laura's CT scan came back clear. No bleeding, no fracture. Just a bad concussion that would need rest and monitoring. Her wrists were bandaged. She was given prescriptions for pain medication and instructions to follow up with her primary care physician in a week. Emma was discharged with similar instructions and a referral to a child psychologist who specialized in trauma. The victim advocate, Jennifer Ramos, a warm Latina woman in her 30s with a calm, reassuring presence, gave them a folder full of information about counseling services, support groups for families of kidnapping victims, and what to expect from the legal proceedings. Detective Chen will want to do a formal interview with both of you, Jennifer explained as they sat in a private consultation room, probably tomorrow or the next day, once you've had some rest. Emma's interview will be done by specially trained forensic interviewers at the Child Advocacy Center. It's designed to be as non-traumatic as possible. What about the man who took her? Michael asked. His hand hadn't left Emma's shoulder since they'd been reunited. This Derek Malloy. What's happening with him? He's been booked on multiple charges. Kidnapping, assault, unlawful imprisonment, child endangerment. He's being held without bail. The district attorney's office will be in touch about the prosecution. Jennifer looked at Emma, then back at Michael and Laura. I want to be honest with you. This is going to be a long process. Months, probably over a year before it goes to trial, and it's going to be difficult. But you have resources and support. You don't have to go through it alone. They left the hospital just after 8 p.m. The sun had set while they were inside, leaving the parking lot bathed in the artificial glow of sodium lights. Michael had driven Laura's CRV from where police had found it on Cascade View Road, so they all piled into the familiar vehicle, Laura in the passenger seat, Emma in her booster seat in the back. As Michael pulled out of the parking lot, Laura turned to look at her daughter. Emma was staring out the window, her expression distant and unreadable. Em, you okay back there? Emma's eyes focused on Laura. Mommy, how did you find me? The man said nobody would know where I was. He said I'd never see you again, but then you were there. Laura reached back and took Emma's small hand. Do you remember a few weeks ago when I was doing something with your backpack? Checking the pockets? Emma nodded slowly. I put a little device in there. It's called an AirTag. It's like a... Laura searched for words a 7-year-old would understand. It's like a map that shows me where your backpack is. So when you disappeared, I used my phone to follow the map. It led me right to you. Like find my friends? Emma had used that feature before to see where Michael was when he was late picking her up. Exactly like that, but for your backpack. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, is that why you wanted me to keep my backpack with me all the time? Even when I said it was annoying? Yes, baby. That's why. You knew something bad might happen. It wasn't a question. Laura exchanged a glance with Michael, who was gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. I didn't know, Laura said carefully, but I wanted to be prepared, just in case. Daddy said I was being paranoid when I wanted the tag. Michael's voice was rough. I'm sorry, Laura. You were right and I was wrong, and if you hadn't... He couldn't finish the sentence. They drove in silence for a while. The familiar streets of Salem passed by the windows. The grocery store where they shopped every Saturday. The park where Emma liked to feed the ducks. The elementary school she'd start attending in the fall. Everything looked the same as it had this morning, but everything had changed. 3 months later, Laura sat in the gallery of the Marion County Courthouse, watching Derek Malloy being led into the courtroom in shackles. He looked smaller than she remembered, diminished somehow, his shoulders hunched, his thinning hair now completely gray. He didn't look at her. He didn't look at anyone. The preliminary hearing had been scheduled for early June, a bright Tuesday morning that seemed far too cheerful for what was about to unfold. Michael sat beside Laura, his hand clasped tightly in hers. Emma was not there. Thank God she was at school, being a normal 7-year-old playing with friends who knew nothing about what had happened to her. Well, that wasn't entirely true. Everyone in Salem knew about Emma Whitfield, the little girl who'd been kidnapped and rescued thanks to an Apple AirTag. The story had gone viral, spawned countless news articles, become a case study in both the benefits and concerns of tracking technology. Laura's inbox was full of interview requests from morning shows, podcasts, documentaries. She'd declined them all. Detective Lucy Chen entered the courtroom and gave Laura a small nod of acknowledgement before taking her seat in the front row. Over the past 3 months, Chen had become something like a friend, or at least an ally. She'd been the one to walk Laura through every step of the investigation, to explain the evidence they'd found in Malloy's trailer, to prepare her for what today's hearing would reveal. And there was a lot to reveal. All rise, the bailiff announced, the Honorable Judge Patricia Kowalski presiding. Everyone stood as the judge entered, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes. She took her seat at the bench and surveyed the courtroom with the air of someone who'd seen too much human ugliness to be surprised by anything. Be seated, she said. We're here for the preliminary hearing in the matter of State of Oregon versus Derek James Malloy. Mr. Malloy, you are represented by counsel. A public defender, a young man who looked fresh out of law school, stood. Yes, Your Honor. Robert Chen for the defense. And the state? Assistant District Attorney Margaret Foster for the prosecution, Your Honor. Very well. Ms. Foster, you may proceed with the state's case. What followed was 2 hours of testimony that Laura would spend years trying to forget. Detective Chen took the stand first. Walking through the timeline of Emma's kidnapping, Laura's 911 call, the response and rescue, she presented evidence, photos of the trailer, the gray pickup truck, the interior where Laura and Emma had been held, Emma's backpack with the AirTag still tucked in its hidden pocket, the knife Malloy had held to Emma's throat. Then came the harder part. "Detective Chen," Ada Foster said, her voice steady and professional. "Can you describe what else your team found during the search of Mr. Malloy's trailer?" Chen's expression hardened. "We found extensive evidence of Mr. Malloy's interest in children. His laptop contained over 10,000 images of child sexual abuse material. We also found handwritten journals detailing his observations of children at various locations around Salem. Parks, schools, the ballet studio where he'd worked. Specific children were mentioned by name, including Emma Whitfield, with detailed notes about their routines, their families, their vulnerabilities." Laura felt Michael's hand tighten painfully around hers. She forced herself to keep breathing. "And were there other victims besides Emma Whitfield?" "We believe so, yes. In Mr. Malloy's storage unit, we found personal items belonging to at least 3 other children. A hair ribbon, a child's jacket, a stuffed animal. We're currently working with the FBI to identify these items and locate any potential victims." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Kowalski banged her gavel. "Order. Continue, Ms. Foster." "Detective Chen, based on your investigation, what was Mr. Malloy's intention with Emma Whitfield?" "Based on his journals and his statements during interrogation, we believe Mr. Malloy intended to take Emma out of state, specifically to a property he'd been renting in rural Montana under a false name. The property had been prepared for long-term captivity. There were locks on the outside of bedroom doors, windows that had been boarded up, and supplies stockpiled for several months." Laura closed her eyes. Montana. He'd been planning to keep Emma for months. Years, maybe. In some isolated cabin where no one would ever find her. If not for the AirTag, if not for Laura's paranoia, if not for that $30 piece of technology. "Mrs. Whitfield?" Laura's eyes snapped open. Ada Foster was looking at her. "The state calls Laura Whitfield to the stand." Michael squeezed her hand once more before Laura stood on shaky legs and made her way to the witness stand. The bailiff swore her in. She sat, very aware of Malloy sitting just 30 feet away, his head still down, still refusing to look at her. Good. She didn't want to see his eyes. Ada Foster approached with a kind smile. "Mrs. Whitfield, I know this is difficult. I'll try to make it as brief as possible. Can you tell the court why you placed an AirTag in your daughter's backpack?" Laura took a breath. "I'd been hearing news reports about child abductions in the area. I wanted a way to locate Emma quickly if something ever happened. It seemed like a reasonable precaution. Had you had any previous concerns about your daughter's safety? Any specific threats?" "No, nothing specific, just a mother's worry. A worry that turned out to be justified." Foster pulled up a photo on the courtroom's display screen, Emma's purple backpack. "This is the backpack containing the AirTag that allowed you to locate your daughter. Can you walk us through what happened on March 15th when Emma was taken?" Laura did. She described waiting in the parking lot, noticing Emma didn't come out with her class, talking to Miss Eleanor who explained about the family emergency. She described the growing panic, checking the Find My app, seeing the green dot moving away from Salem. "And what did you do then?" "I called 911 and started following the signal." "You didn't wait for police to arrive?" "No." Laura's voice was firm. "The signal was moving. Every minute I waited was another minute my daughter was being taken further away. I couldn't just sit there." "What happened when you located the trailer?" Laura described everything, circling the property, hearing Emma crying inside, attempting to disable Malloy's truck, being caught and assaulted, being held captive alongside her daughter, the arrival of police, the rescue. "Mrs. Whitfield, in your opinion, what would have happened if you hadn't been able to track your daughter's location?" The defense attorney, Robert Chen, stood. "Objection, calls for speculation." "I'll rephrase," Foster said. "Mrs. Whitfield, how long did it take police to locate you after your 911 call?" "They arrived approximately 40 minutes after my call, but I'd already been at the location for about 10 minutes before that. So call it 50 minutes total from when Emma was taken to when she was rescued." "And during your captivity, did Mr. Malloy indicate what his plans were?" "He said we were leaving soon, that he was taking Emma to another state, that no one would find us." Laura's voice remained steady, though inside she was screaming. If police had been searching without the AirTag location, they would have been looking in the wrong place. By the time they figured out where we were, we could have been in Montana. Emma could have been. She couldn't finish, didn't need to. Everyone in the courtroom understood. Foster nodded. "Thank you, Mrs. Whitfield, no further questions." The defense attorney stood for cross-examination, but he was gentle, probably knowing that attacking a mother who'd saved her daughter wouldn't play well with anyone. He asked a few perfunctory questions about whether Laura had actually seen Malloy harm Emma, whether Emma had been physically injured during captivity. Laura answered honestly. No serious physical harm, though the psychological trauma was ongoing. Then it was over. Laura was excused. She returned to her seat beside Michael, who wrapped his arm around her shoulders. The rest of the hearing was procedural. The judge ruled that there was sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Malloy's bail was denied. No surprise there, given the severity of the charges and his clear flight risk. A trial date was set for October. As the hearing concluded, and Malloy was led away in shackles, he finally looked up. His eyes found Laura's across the courtroom, and for just a moment they made eye contact. There was nothing there. No remorse, no anger, no emotion at all. Just emptiness. Then he was gone, led through a side door back to county jail where he'd await trial. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Laura had expected this, but the wall of cameras and microphones was still overwhelming. Michael moved to shield her, but Ada Foster stepped forward first. "I'll make a brief statement," she said. "The defendant, Derek Malloy, has been bound over for trial on multiple charges, including kidnapping, assault, unlawful imprisonment, and possession of child sexual abuse material. The state is confident in our case and believes justice will be served. The Whitfield family has requested privacy during this difficult time, and we ask that you respect that. Thank you." She turned back to Laura and Michael. "My office will be in touch about trial preparation. In the meantime, if you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to call." They escaped to Michael's car, driving in silence for several minutes before Laura finally spoke. "I keep thinking about those other items they found. The hair ribbon, the jacket, other children. I know. What if those kids are still missing? What if there are families out there who never got their daughters back?" Michael pulled into a coffee shop parking lot and put the car in park. He turned to face Laura fully. "You saved Emma. You can't save everyone. You can't carry that weight. But what if I could have done more? What if I'd noticed him watching her? What if—" "Laura," Michael's voice was firm, "you did everything right. You trusted your instincts, you took precautions, and when the worst happened, you acted. Emma is alive because of you. That has to be enough." Laura nodded, though she wasn't sure she believed it. They picked Emma up from school at 3:15. She came bounding out with her classmates, backpack bouncing. A new backpack, bright yellow instead of purple, but still containing an AirTag in its hidden pocket. Some habits once formed were impossible to break. "Mom, Dad, guess what? I got 100% on my spelling test." Emma waved a paper covered in gold stars. "That's amazing, sweetheart." Laura pulled Emma into a hug, breathing in the scent of her daughter's strawberry shampoo. Normal, everyday moments. These were the things that mattered. As they drove home, Emma chattered about her day, about the boy who brought a frog to show and tell, about the art project they were working on, about how she and her friend Zoe were planning a sleepover. She sounded like any other 7-year-old. But Laura noticed the small things, the way Emma always made sure she could see both parents, the way she tensed when strangers approached, the nightmares that still woke her up crying 3 or 4 times a week, the therapy appointments every Tuesday and Thursday. The trauma was still there, lurking beneath the surface. It would probably always be there in some form. But Emma was resilient, she was healing, and she was safe. That evening, after Emma was in bed, Laura and Michael sat on their back porch watching the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and somewhere nearby, a bird was singing its evening song. "Ada Foster told me something interesting today," Laura said. "After the story went viral, AirTag sales went up 40%. Parents all over the country are putting them in their kids' backpacks now. That's good, isn't it? I don't know. Part of me thinks it's good. More kids protected, more chances to find them if something happens. But part of me wonders if we're just teaching our children to accept being tracked, surveilled, monitored. If we're raising a generation that never knows privacy." Michael was quiet for a moment. "I think," he said slowly, "that you did what any parent would do. You tried to keep your child safe, and in this case it worked. Maybe that's all we can ask for." Laura leaned against him, feeling the solid warmth of his presence. "I still feel guilty sometimes, for being right, for being paranoid enough to track my own daughter. Don't. You saved her life. The police saved her life. The AirTag saved her life. You saved her life," Michael repeated firmly. "Your instinct, Your quick thinking, your bravery. Give yourself credit for that. From inside the house, they heard Emma call out. Probably a nightmare again. Laura stood immediately, but Michael caught her hand. "My turn," he said. "You've done enough rescuing for one day." He went inside, and Laura heard his footsteps on the stairs, heard his low voice comforting their daughter. After a moment, the house was quiet again. Laura pulled out her phone and opened the Find My app, checking Emma's location out of habit. The green dot pulsed steadily inside the house, inside Emma's bedroom, exactly where it should be. Safe, home, protected. She closed the app and looked up at the darkening sky, at the first stars beginning to appear. Somewhere out there, Derek Malloy sat in a cell awaiting trial. Somewhere out there, other predators were watching other children, planning other abductions. The world was full of dangers that no amount of technology could completely prevent. But tonight, Emma was safe. Tonight, their family was whole. And tomorrow, they would wake up and try again. Try to heal, try to move forward, try to build a life where the trauma didn't define them. It wouldn't be easy. It would probably never be completely normal again. But they would survive. They would endure. And maybe, just maybe, Emma's story would save other children. Other families would be inspired to take precautions, to trust their instincts, to use the tools available to protect the ones they loved. Laura's phone buzzed. A text from Detective Chen. "Wanted to let you know, we've identified 2 of the 3 children whose items were found in Malloy's storage. Both were reported missing in 2020. Neither case was ever solved. We're following up with the families now. Because of what you did, we might finally be able to give them answers." Laura read the message twice, tears blurring her vision. 2 families who might finally know what happened to their daughters. It wouldn't bring the girls back, but it was something. Closure. Justice. Truth. She typed back, "Thank you for telling me." Inside, Michael was singing Emma back to sleep. The same lullaby he'd sung when she was a baby, his voice soft and slightly off-key. Laura listened, memorizing the sound, holding on to this moment of peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The trial, the testimony, the continued healing. But tonight they were okay. And for now that was enough.